Welcome everybody to the PinstripeChronicles podcast. I am Tats. I am here with Donald and Rob, and we are going to be taking a different look at baseball today. And we are going to be focusing on teams that have inherited their franchise, specifically Hal Steinbrenner inheriting it from George Steinbrenner, the boss. And the way we're going to look at this is, does it benefit the fan base when teams stay in the family, when the owner who initially purchased that organization actually did pass it on to their children? So we all know that Hal Steinbrenner really hasn't shown too much of an interest in the baseball operations. It's pretty much the Yankees are his piggy bank. Do you think that when the initial owner that purchased that team, should they make sure that when they're handing that team over, that they're passing it down in their will, that their children are primed to run a baseball team, specifically a team with the prestige like the Yankees?
I think it's you can kind of go both ways with it, because in the early stages when it was Hal and Hank, when they took over, it was pretty much the same operation. The Yankees were spending money, like 2009, they spent $500 million on 3 players and won a championship. The next year they made some questionable moves, but Hank really was a lot more like George. And now that Hank is no longer with us, unfortunately, it's basically, it's Hal and the rest of the family that's taken the reins of the organization. And yeah, things have changed a little bit. The way they operate is more kind of business driven. Let's make as much money as possible. But they still do spend. I know I sound like Cashman. It's like, how dare you question the money? They still spend, but they don't spend it where we need it. There's an issue there. It's like you can spend the money on positions that we need and things that this team needs to be better. They still put a good product on the field. It's just not good enough, and they seem to be content with just getting there, and that's the issue there. So I think it's kind of both ways. It started off like it was like George never left the ownership role, and now it's kind of taken a different turn where it's just, let's make as much money because we're still selling seats despite the fact that we're not a World Series contending team like we should be every single year.
Yeah, Donald?
The way this has worked out is, let's not forget, George Steinbrenner didn't initially want to hand over the reins of the ball club to Hal Steinbrenner. He was not meant to be the guy, because Hal Steinbrenner's never really been in a baseball. When George was alive in Compos Mentis and running things, Hal was more interested in hotels and horses and his other business ventures. It wasn't the Yankees. He's never been a baseball guy. That's why Hank was a bit more active. And in fact, George was looking at other people within the family before even his son Hal. So I think it kind of tells you how George was thinking about passing the organization on to. He wanted someone that was just as passionate about it as he was. There's only ever going to be one George. And I also have to say, I think it's crazy that George has not even been in the Hall of Fame yet. I mean, what kind of owner who's won all these championships spanning the course of the 70s right up through the 90s somehow hasn't been in the Hall of Fame? So I think that's crazy. That's another thing. The Hall of Fame people need to sort themselves out, get over their personal prejudices, or get over the fact that he was suspended at one point. Forget all that nonsense. If you look at it, he was the most invested owner of any team in baseball, and most successful over the span of 3-4 decades. So that's a side note. But the original question was, I don't believe that George wanted to hand it over to Hal Steinbrenner, and since Hal Steinbrenner has taken it on, he's basically managed it exactly as he would any other business. He's looking at the bottom line first. That's really what it is. He's looking at it as how to make the most money, and he will throw you an occasional. He'll throw an occasional crumb to us, and to make it look like, oh, he's really interested about, oh, we're going to win championships and all that stuff. But the truth is, like the last time we looked was like 2018, 2019. He's basically spent about 20%, 26%, I believe, of our income on player salary. So that tells its own story. He's not really. He's basically doing the bare minimum, if that. In fact, less than the bare minimum. He throws us an occasional crumb like Garrett Cole, but that's just because we're making hand over fist almost $1 billion every single year. We're making minimum $800 million every single year in gross annual income, and he spends about 26 to 30% of that. That tells you how invested an owner he is.
Yeah, when you saw like Rob referenced with Hank, Hank really was the one that was being primed for, taking over the business of running the Yankees, and Hal was just going to manage the finances while Hank put everything else together. That's the way it looked, and sometimes, obviously, it didn't work out that way. So when you see that,
sorry to intervene there. The reason that didn't work out that way was because of the A-Rod contract.
Yeah.
Well, no, Hank Steinbrenner. Hank Stein. Yeah. Well, I'm just explaining to anybody who was maybe not privy to it. Hank Steinbrenner was the one that basically negotiated with himself for A-Rod's extension. Brian Cashman was pretty resolute that if A-Rod opted out of his contract, that he was not going to re-sign him. And then Hank Steinbrenner was blown away by A-Rod's previous numbers. So he was the one that really pushed to get that done and offered him a massive extension, including incentives for every home run that record that he broke. You know what I mean? And that really got Brian Cashman's nose out of joint, because that means that he wasn't really running the organization the way that he was envisioning. So that pushed Hank to the side. Hal then took the forefront, and Brian Cashman then kind of worked it out with Hal that he would be in charge of all baseball, deals and negotiations from then on, and not to have it done behind his back, which is absolutely right. He is right for that. But that was the reason why Hank took the step back. And then, of course, God rest his soul, rest in peace. And it's terrible what happened to him, and he passed away so early. But prior to his passing away, that was the reason why he was sidelined.
Yeah. The whole thing is it time for? Has Hal pretty much? Is he wrecking this organization? Is he damaging the prestige at all? Did he? That's the thing that a lot of the fans keep wrestling back and forth with. He'll open his wallet, but not enough, and not where they need it to be. To mirror what Rob was saying. So is it time for Hal to say, what? Maybe I just need somebody. I just need to just step away. I'll just be the owner and just let somebody else just completely run the organization, and just do a complete revamp. New office people, new GM, new everything. Is it? Have we reached that point yet where they need to, somebody's going to step in and be like, look, the ship needs to be put back on track, because it's just completely falling apart, and the fans are just kind of, now we're all at war with each other of, Cashman sucks, or Cashman's the best, or Hal's doing the best he can. Hal doesn't care about, he doesn't know baseball. Now you have the fans fighting with each other. Is that healthy for an organization? I don't think it is.
The fans have been fighting forever. The fans are going to fight over everything. I think that it's been time to get a new face in the front office. Cashman, look, I like the guy and all, but I've been wanting a change for a little while now. Especially this past year. I'm like, just what's it going to hurt to get some kind of new blood in this organization, kind of a new-minded guy with analytics. That's how the game is going to keep moving. It's going to be pushed by analytics, and I know Cashman likes to think he knows it more than anybody, but it's clear that he doesn't. So, Hal has it easy. Let's be honest. He has it very easy. He makes a ton of money, and he's got Brian Cashman making all the decisions for him. He just has to open the checkbook. Now, Cashman claimed that there is a budget. Hal says he'll go over. So there's this. We've said this before. This kind of like seesaw of who's saying what. Hal said we'll go over. Cashman said no. Mission accomplished. We got under. So which one is it? That's my biggest issue is they keep making us to look like idiots. Like you don't know what you're talking about, but they don't even know what the hell they're talking about because the owner and GM are saying two completely different things while trying to fool the fans saying that they're on the same side. So we know the Yankees can sign anybody they want.
Yeah.
They could, like, once this lockout, let's say the lockout ended in 10 minutes, right? They can go out there and sign Carlos Correa right now if they wanted to. They can go re-sign Anthony Rizzo or bring in Freddie Freeman. They can bring in the top free agent pitcher. I think that's Rodon at this point, whoever it is. They can get anybody they want. However, they don't have to do that to win. You can put a very good team on the field with what we have if you just make strategic, smart moves. And I think that is what Cashman wants to do. And I think Hal is kind of like, if I don't have to spend that much money and I can continue to make $800 million to billions of dollars every year, why not? Well, they still have a huge payroll, and that's because they're paying a few select players a lot of money. But I just want them to stop giving us two different answers every time they speak and be like, see, we're on the same page. It's like, you're both saying two different things, and we're not stupid. You're not fooling anybody. I know a lot of people in the Yankee fan base act weird sometimes, but the majority of us, there we go, are very, very smart people. We're not idiots. We can all see past it. And it's just like, we know you're capable of doing it and giving us a championship. Go and do it. That's all we're asking for. Go out there and tell us that you give a damn. Show us that you give a damn, because like I said it before, if they go out and sign Correa and make a big trade for an Olsen or a Reynolds and we still don't win, we can't be like, this is all Hal's fault, because Hal will be like, whoa, what more do you want? Right? I just gave you two players that you've been screaming for, three if you include Garrett Cole, and then if you extend Aaron Judge. Yep. I mean, it's like, what more do you want out of me? So, I mean, we just want effort. We want to see that you give a damn.
See, what the thing is, what Hal's saying that teams can win with a $200 million payroll, he is quite correct. I don't blame the fact that the new owner is paying more attention to the bottom line. I think any baseball savvy person can say that any team can win with a $200 million payroll. It's not that. First of all, it's how it's spent. So that's on Brian. He's not really spent that $200 million efficiently. But the fact that we're kind of, we're basically on the very tax threshold that Hal's very much sticking to, we have more than enough capacity to just absolutely steamroll over it if we're required to, in order to put the best product on the field. But Hal Steinbrenner is like, no, I'm sticking by that. And that's on him. We have the capability of spending in order to get better. And so this kind of strategy that we have right now, where we've done nothing, we've sat, because we want to find out the exact specifications of this CBA, because we need to know exactly what's going to be for this budget, because that is what Hal's most worried about. It's the budget. He's not worried about, who is the best shortstop that is going to push us forward. He's not worried about that. If he's going to be told by the baseball people that there's going to be somebody coming up from AAA, whether in Volpe or any of those names, then he's delighted, because that means he doesn't need to shell out $300 million. That's absolute music to his ears.
Yeah.
But he's not worried specifically about which is the best player available. He's going to wait until the CBA has been sorted out, and then he's going to instruct Brian Cashman to look for the best bargains You know, if Trevor Story comes within the remit of what they're looking for, which will be short-term years and probably at higher cost, then they'll do it as long as the years fit. And then they'll probably be in it to an extent, as they have been. They've kind of petered on the edge of a couple of guys, but because it's not fitting their exact remit, then they're out, right? Now, under George Steinbrenner, it was never a problem. George Steinbrenner was like, Gary Sheffield, he's the one. We're getting him, whether you like it or not. Whether we are paying the money to get it done. That's what Steve Cohen did. He was like, we need back Scherzer. Scherzer was like, no, I kind of prefer LA. He's like, that's $40 million for you. Oh, okay, no problem. He got what that's what, that's how you get deals done. But that's not how Hal Steinbrenner is going to work. So what I'm saying is the Yankees have the capability of getting whatever player they need to do to make themselves better. But Hal Steinbrenner is concerned about that. His priority, number one, is budget. How it fits within his budget. And as long as it fits within his budget and his remit, then he will be happy to sign off on whatever. But it has to fit exact specifications. And that's a new thing for us. And it shouldn't be the case with the New York Yankees. I'm sorry, because it's not the case with the Dodgers. It's not the case with the Red Sox. Even though they've sat out, they still pay whatever it is required to win. That's just a fact. But Hal's working differently, and the Mets are showing him up, and that has to be an embarrassment. But I don't think Hal takes any embarrassment out of it. I think he's really proud of the fact that he's doing nothing and sitting on and waiting for a bargain.
Yeah, Hal goes home and he goes into the basement and goes diving into his money like Scrooge McDuck. So he could care less about what's going on around him and other teams. We just saw, we were talking about, inheriting the family business. We just saw that, you brought up Cohen. We just had that with the Wilpons, where the organization was being run so poorly, they almost had no choice but to bring in new owners, and they had to sell the team because they knew that the fan base is just completely given up on them, and they were just an embarrassment of an organization. They brought in somebody who has the financial muscle to pretty much, when you have the financial muscle in New York to embarrass the Yankees organization, you're doing pretty well. And he's showing that. So that's what made me want to, start to think that is it time for Hal to take a look at that approach, where maybe keep, a minority stake in the organization, but bring in somebody that's going to bring the Yankees back to the way that his father had built it.
He's not. Yeah, he doesn't need to sell the team. It's not come to that point yet. Like I said earlier, they still win a lot of games. They still get there every year. Unlike the Mets will start off hot. Everyone over in Flushing, Queens, and all the Mets fans like you, Tom, you get all excited, and and then they fizzle out. I'm glad they're spending, though. I will say that I'm glad that their owner is putting his money where his mouth is. He said he was going to do it, and he's doing it. Good for them, and I hope it works out for them because it's better for the sport when both teams in New York are playing well, because that's more national attention. It's more the New York market gets more eyes on the sport, whatever. Hal doesn't need to sell the team. It's like, Donald just mentioned, you don't have to spend all this money, right? You can get to at $200 million, if that was the payroll budget. You can win with that budget. You can win with that payroll. Just not spending it wisely. It's like something that we've been talking about for over a year now. It's like spend the money wisely. Like you don't have to get Correa. Trevor Story would be a perfect signing for this team. He's a really good player. And if you get him for 4 or 5 years, at like 180, maybe closer to 200 million, you can afford that. But Hal Steinbrenner would like to tell you we can't. And that's the thing. We know you can. If we know you can. You've made so much money, even during a pandemic. You made a lot of money this year. People still showed up to the games during a pandemic. So, I mean, it's like, why lie to us? Why? That's my biggest issue. Is stop lying to us. We know you can do it because you have already done it before. So just do it. I don't care if people think the Yankees buy a championship. If we sign Correa and trade for Olsen, or if it's re-signing Rizzo, whatever, and we go out there and win a World Series this year, and people say, you bought it, great. The Yankees did.
But that's every championship is bought because you're paying the players that win for you.
Exactly. And if we have the financial ability to sign the best players, not only the best players, but the ones that are going to help us. Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, they are great players that help us win right now because we don't have a shortstop. Anthony Rizzo or Matt Olson make us better because we don't have a first baseman. We have Luke Voigt, who's more of a DH. You can spend it, and you can also make the team better because the positions that we need have some premium free agents. So if there was ever an offseason to spend, it's this one. They haven't done it yet because, like you just said, Donald, they're waiting. What's the CBA going to be like? And you're really going to try to sell us that it's business as usual when you're clearly waiting to see what's going to change in this CBA. Like, come on now, Hal. We're not stupid. Same to you, Cashman. We're not stupid. You're not the smartest person in the room. Same goes to you, you dork, Randy Levine. So there's my little rant. I don't like him either. Randy Levine can go kick rocks.
We literally don't need to self-impose our own budget. That's the thing. And as I mentioned millions of times, we know that Hal Steinbrenner voted to lower the tax threshold. Lower it even further because for the reason that it gave. He only spends about 26 to 30% of our gross annual income on the actual Yankee product on the field. So it doesn't make any difference to him if they lower the tax threshold. That's just the fact. It just doesn't make any difference to him. So yeah, go for it. That kind of shows how interested he is really in making us a winner. He'll throw us an occasional bone. That's just what he does because, as long as it fits within the 26%, then yeah, fine, no problem. Sign who you ever want, but we ain't going over. So every time that he has to keep telling people that, oh, I pushed for Joey Gallo, as if that makes a difference. Oh, I pushed for us to go to Joey Gallo because that means that I want us to go over the tax threshold, yet we didn't go over the tax threshold. And I highly doubt that he campaigned for Joey Gallo. I highly doubt it. I could probably picture it exactly how it went. Brian Cashman probably went to him going, right, we could probably get Joey Gallo. He's a lefty that hit 40 home runs, and we can get it done within the tax threshold. Great, get it done, Brian, get it done, Brian. But those, you know what I mean? That's what happened. It wasn't Hal Steinbrenner studying the numbers, studying baseball, going, oh, I got to have him. He's the answer. Then contacts their GM. No, Hal's not doing that stuff. Brian Cashman runs the whole baseball operations. He goes to Hal Steinbrenner and presents him with opportunities. And then Hal has to give the go-ahead or not. That's how it works. That is how it works. Hal Steinbrenner does not push for players to be signed. He does not do that. He is not interested in doing that. That's just the fact. That's just how it works.
Well, no, it's, exactly. Hal is just, his only concern is profit. And, you were saying that, it's just business as usual for them. It kind of is right now because they even announced yesterday their tickets, the ticket sales are open. Who's going to buy a ticket? Who's going to spend money on tickets for opening day when we don't even know when the hell it's going to be?
People will still spend. They're still.
I'm sure they sold them because opening day is going to happen at some point. So whatever opening day is, it is. But we all know that there's those fans that come hell or high water, no matter what, whether they spend $1 or $1 billion, they're going to be in those seats. We know that, and it just really, I'm like, figure out when you're going to be playing your season first, then sell your tickets. Find out who's on your roster first, then sell your tickets. That pisses me off. Their priorities are so half-assed backwards.
Well, the thing is, nowadays, going to a Yankee game is more of like a social event. It's not there's still a ton of hardcore fans, but like Twitter has really you know, a lot of people be like, hey, you know, I know you from Twitter. Let's meet up at the game. And there's a lot of Twitter meetups, and that's a good thing. You know, people, you know, baseball minds like to go watch a game together. I have no issue with that, but people are not going to not go watch the Yankees play. You know, people are still going to want to see Aaron Judge. You still have star power on this team.
Yeah.
They're still going to win a lot of games. It's not like, I'll bring it to another sport. It's like the New York Giants, who are just a complete dumpster fire that they're about to get out ticketed by a rival fan base is coming Sunday. It's going to be like 80% Cowboys fans, and they deserve it. The Yankees don't deserve that because they're not losing games. You know, they're not putting up a below 500 record every year. They're not a losing team. They're just missing a few. They're just not getting where they need to be. You know, they're getting to the playoffs, and it's like, hey, they should be winning the division or at least being within a few games of the division every year, but they're not. So you know that there's holes on this team. There's a difference, though. It's if it's like the Giants, who just flat out suck and the organization is lost.
But there's another organization where, you know, DeMaris, it was passed down to them from their father. So,
right, and
you know,
John Mara,
rinse and repeat. Are the inherited teams the one? You know, is that the problem that, you know, they're not grooming their children on how to run an organization where the organization can hold its head up?
Well, John Mara got very lucky that he had Tom Coughlin. And I don't want to keep talking about football, but Tom Coughlin saved John Mara's ass. Now that he's gone, look what's happened. Hal Steinbrenner, he has Brian Cashman, who, while he's made some bad moves, he's still a very smart person. He still knows what he's doing. He just thinks that he knows more than everybody else, and that's really his downfall, is his ego. But now that the Giants don't have Coughlin, they've been lost ever since he left, and they were even lost before, like, while, you know, in the last few years of his career. But people are still going to go watch the Yankees. They're not going to boycott the team. You know, they're not going to do any of that. It's not going to happen, and Hal knows that. I'm not saying he's going to be like, well, screw you guys. I'm just going to put the same team out there, because they're going to get somebody once this lockout ends, whether it's, you know, Simmons and then a big trade or something like that. They're still going to make some moves because they have to. And they know that. They cannot roll the same team out there and be like, let's just roll back with it. They know they have to make something happen. Yeah. Luckily for them, their targets are still out there once this lockout ends. So I think maybe it does help that they waited, but at the same time, it's like you could have signed them before this lockout. You know,
the Giants could. Sorry, just interrupt, man. The Giants. You know, we're talking about the Giants there. That comparison is interesting because Wellington Mara, you know, the Giants were struggling for a long, long time, right? Under Wellington Mara's stewardship, Giants were an embarrassment, and the NFL forced.
That was when they had
George Young.
George Young, right?
Yes, they forced them to hire George Young.
I know stuff.
Yeah, here you go. There you go, bro. So yeah, he kind of forced them in order to do it, and George Young turned the Giants around. Hired the right guys. We got Bill Parcells, and then the rest is history. And then of course we had a Corsi, and then, you know, we hired Tom Coughlin and things like that. And around about that time, John Mara had nothing to do with any of that until after. And John Mara he's overseen a complete dumpster fire now, and he's fully in charge of it since Wellington passed away. He benefited from Tom Coughlin. He rode that out, and then when Tom Coughlin, and then he rode out the Eli Manning era, because how lucky are you to have a quarterback that plays every single game and can win you 2 Super Bowls? But now that he's having to look for the new quarterback and look for the right next coach and the right GM, he's failing at all 3 things. So, yeah, he doesn't know football like his dad does. It's just his fact, you know. And now Hal Steinbrenner doesn't know football, doesn't know baseball like George Steinbrenner does. See, the way with the Yankees is, to be honest, it's all still profit-driven, though. As long as we're winning and above 500, then there will be fans coming through the turnstiles. They will. As long as there's Aaron Judge on the field and there's Garrett Cole and Giancarlo Stanton, there will be people coming through the seats. And it's the place to be. If it's not Madison Square Garden, where do you want to go for a sporting event? it's going to be Yankee Stadium because it's the New York Yankees. It's just the thing. So you're going to get people coming through the seats. Hal Steinbrenner tried to make it into a corporate thing, though, because he wanted to make it like you're going to a basketball game where all the celebrities and all the rich people go in the front in the luxury seats. Do you know what I mean? Like front court seats. That's what he envisaged. And I think it's backfired because the real true fans are still in the bleachers or way up in the nosebleeds, and that hurts because see when an opposition team are going to bat or pitching, they're looking and the front rows are largely empty or just people on their cell phones because the rest of them are probably up in the NYY steakhouse or having a cocktail or something like that. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't make the new Yankee Stadium very intimidating. And I think other teams have benefited from that, but that's a side issue. I just think that the way that the Hal Steinbrenner has run this organization is profit-based. It all is profit-based. The stadium is profit-based. It's not based on what is best for us winning a World Series. As long as he makes a profit and we're a competitive team, then that's all he's worried about. That's why he gave Aaron Boone a 100-year contract, because Aaron Boone does exactly what he's looking for. Keeps us above 500, keeps us semi-competitive. Forget about all the other stuff about the fact he can't manage. That doesn't really matter. As long as we're above 500 and competitive, and he's totally happy with that. If we win a World Series, all the live long day. That's what he's worried about.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. It goes full circle back to the money. And you said, the casual fan, the diehard fan can't sit behind first, unless they have, the right income. You can't sit, by first base, and cheer on your players. You're sitting where they can't even hear you. They don't even know you're there. So that's where the disconnect came with like you said, with the new stadium. The old stadium had that, but not as noticeable as it is now. So also, they outpriced, the tickets for where you're going to have a full stadium every single game. You have a full stadium, but they're all at the museums. They're all at the restaurants. They're all at the gift shop. At the gift shop, when they, have it, the gift shop's open an hour before and an hour after the game. Entice people to be sitting in the stands, seats, watching. They're not going to do it because they want the profit. I know, Rob. That guy, I see you.
Well, no, I was just going to cut you off real quick. Would you want to be shopping for gifts, or do you want to watch, the Yankees on the field last year? Do you want to watch Gleyber Torres boot a ground ball, or Miguel Andujar running down something in left field, or do you want to go shop for a bobblehead? I mean, at that point, you don't want to watch the Yankee product last year for the majority of the season. But I get your point, though. You want people in the seats watching the game. It's important, though. The product on the field is worth watching. Last year, for a good maybe 60% of the season, it wasn't. It was not a watchable product.
Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting to see how Hal's going to spend his money when the lockout ends. Hopefully he's bringing in enough money from these ticket sales that he announced that he'll be able to put a little more money in his pool. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting. We're still waiting. I'm hoping it gets interesting. I'm hoping it's resolved soon. My guess was before the new year. It's not looking like it's going to be that way because there's just silence, and it's just so aggravating.
But hey, Justin Verlander signed. That went through. Justin Verlander signing went through, but nothing else can happen. Justin Verlander's contract.
I don't know how that worked out. I didn't even pay much attention to it. I just thought it was,
I think it's because it was sent into the league office before the lockout, so it was official, or it was allowed to be whatever. You know what I'm talking about. It was sent in before the league went to a lockout, so they were able to finish off the whole deal. But that's the only news we've got. Nothing. Complete utter silence, like you just said. It's disgusting. And what is it, day 15 of the lockout now?
Day 14, yeah.
It's going to be a long wait, guys. It's a long wait.
So it is.
I mean,
It's only two. It's only 2 weeks, but it feels like it's been forever.
I mean, if you listen to sports radio, there's insiders that are saying this could go long haul. You could be talking months here. So we'll wait and see. But not a lot can change though. But at the moment, they're both it's kind of like a Cold War. They're both kind of holding on to their entrenched positions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who can blink first? It's a staring contest. Who's going to blink first? Because both sides want it all their way. There's not going to be too much negotiation, with that, and that's why we're in this situation. So there's going to be a lot more pods of us ranting about Hal Steinbrenner's ownership, I think, over the next few months, guys.
All right, that's going to wrap things up for us today. Just remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check out our social medias in the description. Just remember, wear your pinstripes with pride and play hard.
Bring me Correa.